Daddy, why doesn't anyone stay?" Hudson Carter froze, his hand trembling as he held the birthday invitation he'd just finished writing. His 4-year-old daughter Isla sat on the carpet, her small fingers tracing the edge of a photograph, the last one taken of her mother, Vivian, laughing in the autumn leaves. Those words, so quiet, so resigned, they shattered something inside him. He knelt beside her, his throat tight. "Sweetheart." "They come, then they leave, always." Isla's voice was barely a whisper. "Am I hard to love?" Hudson pulled her close, feeling her tiny heartbeat against his chest. Since Vivian's death 2 years earlier, Isla had withdrawn into a shell so deep that even he struggled to reach her. Relatives visited less and less, uncomfortable with her silence. Children at playgroups ignored her, confused by her stillness. She'd become invisible, a ghost of the joyful child she'd once been. Vivian had been extraordinary. Hudson remembered that terrible day. She'd been returning from shopping when she saw a child dart into the street, a delivery truck barreling toward him. Without hesitation, she'd thrown herself forward, pushing the boy to safety. The truck couldn't stop in time. Hudson had lost his wife, his partner, his light. And Isla had lost the one person who truly understood her. "Your birthday's coming," Hudson said softly, wiping a tear from Isla's cheek. What if we made it special, like Mommy used to?" Isla looked up at him, hope flickering briefly in her gray eyes before fading. "Nobody will come, Daddy. I promise," he said, though his heart ached. "And I'm planning someone who'll make you smile. I promise." The morning of Isla's 4th birthday arrived with autumn sunlight streaming through the windows. Hudson had invited everyone, cousins, neighbors, colleagues with children. The house filled with noise and chaos, but Isla sat in the corner of the living room, barely visible among the crowd. Children ran past her, chasing balloons. Adults chatted near the kitchen, sipping coffee and laughing. No one seemed to notice the small girl who sat so still, her hands folded in her lap. Hudson watched from the hallway, his chest tightening. He'd hired a clown, someone who worked at the children's hospital, known for reaching even the most withdrawn kids. He kept it a secret, praying it would work. The doorbell rang. When Hudson opened it, he found a young woman in full clown costume, rainbow wig, painted smile, oversized shoes. But her eyes, they were warm, genuine, filled with something he couldn't quite name. "Mr. Carter, I'm Leela Hayes. I'm here for Isla." "Thank you for coming," Hudson said, stepping aside. She's in the living room, but I should warn you, she doesn't really engage." Leela's smile didn't waver. "That's okay. Sometimes the quietest hearts just need someone to listen." Leela entered the chaos of the party and immediately scanned the room. It took her only seconds to find Isla, the small girl sitting alone, watching the other children with an expression that broke her heart. She'd seen that look before, in hospital wards and therapy rooms, the look of a child who'd learned not to hope. Without fanfare, without calling attention to herself, Leela walked over and sat down beside Isla on the floor. She didn't speak first. She just sat there, pulling out a small stuffed rabbit from her bag and making it hop gently across the carpet. Isla glanced at her, curious but cautious. Leela continued, her voice gentle. "Between you and me, grown-ups are really loud, aren't they? Sometimes it's nicer to just be quiet together." Isla nodded slowly. For the next 20 minutes, Leela didn't perform. She didn't juggle or tell jokes or demand attention. She simply stayed beside Isla, playing quietly, showing her simple magic tricks and listening to her small whispered comments. And gradually, something miraculous happened. Isla smiled. Then she giggled, a sound Hudson hadn't heard in almost 2 years. From across the room he felt tears prick his eyes. Other guests had noticed too, pausing their conversations to watch as the clown brought his daughter back to life, one gentle moment at a time. Then it happened. As they brought out Isla's birthday cake, a beautiful pink and white creation with 4 candles, Isla stood up excitedly, forgetting her usual caution. She reached for the cake just as Hudson set it down, and it tilted dangerously on the edge of the table. In an instant, Leela was there. She caught the cake with one hand and wrapped her other arm around Isla, steadying her. "Whoa there, birthday girl. We've got you. We've always got you." Isla looked up at Leela and something shifted in her expression. She threw her small arms around Leela's neck and held on tight, burying her face in the clown's shoulder. Hudson stood frozen, watching. The way Leela held his daughter, protective, tender, unhurried, it reminded him so much of Vivian that his breath caught. This wasn't just entertainment, this was connection. After the guests left, after the decorations came down and Isla finally fell asleep clutching Mr. Whiskers, Hudson found Leela packing up her supplies in the hallway. "Wait," he said softly. "Please, can we talk?" They sat in the kitchen, coffee growing cold between them, as Hudson explained everything. Vivian's death, Isla's withdrawal, his helplessness. "She hasn't been herself in 2 years, and today you gave me my daughter back." Leela's eyes were glassy. "I understand more than you know," she whispered. I had a younger sister, Emma. She was 6 when she got sick, leukemia. I was 12 and I couldn't do anything to save her. After she died, I needed to find a way to bring joy to children who were hurting. I volunteer at the hospital. But Isla today, she reminded me so much of Emma, that loneliness, that need to be seen. Hudson reached across the table, his hand covering hers. Would you consider visiting her again? Not as a clown, just as yourself. I think she needs someone like you in her life." Leela looked at him, tears streaming down her painted cheeks. "I'd be honored." Over the following months, Leela became a constant presence. She came to the house on weekends, playing with Isla, reading to her, teaching her to paint. Sometimes Hudson would bring Isla to the hospital where Leela volunteered, and they'd spend afternoons bringing joy to other children. Slowly, Isla blossomed. She started talking more, laughing freely, even playing with other children at the park. Hudson watched his daughter transform, and he felt something shift inside himself, too. Grief beginning to soften into gratitude, loneliness giving way to hope.
Years passed. Isla was 7 now, bright and expressive, though she still had quiet days when she missed her mother. When the school announced a Mother's Day celebration, she came home with tears in her eyes. "Everyone's bringing their moms," she whispered. I don't have anyone." Hudson's heart broke all over again. But then an idea came to him, one that felt both terrifying and right. That evening, he called Leela. Would you come to Isla's school for Mother's Day? She thinks of you that way, you know, as someone who loves her like a mother would." There was silence on the other end, then Leela's tearful voice. "Hudson, I'd be so honored, so deeply honored." The day of the celebration, Isla stood nervously by the school entrance, scanning the crowd of mothers and daughters. Then she saw Leela. No clown costume, just a simple blue dress and a gentle smile. Leela knelt down, opening her arms, and Isla ran to her. "You came," Isla breathed. "I'll always come," Leela whispered, holding her close. "Always." They walked into the school together, hand in hand, and Hudson watched from the doorway, overwhelmed. In that moment, he realized something profound. Family wasn't just blood. It was choice. It was showing up. It was love given freely, without expectation. That evening, after tucking Isla into bed, Hudson and Leela sat on the porch watching the stars emerge. "I've been thinking," Hudson said quietly, "about starting a foundation for children who've lost parents or who don't have the support they need. I want to hire you to run it. You have a gift, Leela. You see people, you heal them without even trying." Leela turned to him, eyes wide. "Hudson, I mean it. You changed our lives. Maybe you could change others too." Leela wiped her eyes, nodding. "I'd love that. I really would." Years later, the foundation thrived, helping hundreds of children find connection, support, and love. Isla grew into a confident, compassionate teenager who volunteered alongside Leela. Hudson found peace in honoring Vivian's legacy through action, through kindness, through community. One evening, as the three of them sat together in the living room, Isla doing homework, Leela sketching, Hudson reading, Isla looked up and said softly, "You know what Mommy used to tell me?" Hudson and Leela both looked at her. She said, "Love doesn't leave, sweetheart. It just changes shape." Isla smiled, her eyes moving between them. I think she was right. Hudson felt tears slip down his cheeks. Leela reached over, taking his hand and Isla's, forming a small circle. "She was right," Leela whispered. "Love always finds a way." And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the people who'd chosen to stay, Hudson finally understood. Grief and joy could coexist. Loss and love could intertwine. And sometimes the most broken hearts could create the most beautiful families. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to sit beside you in the quiet and stay.